Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. We got a little three-man show today here on the Pewter Report podcast. JC Allen is down there at the bottom of your screen. Matt Matera is to the other side of me. I don't know which side it is, depending on how people. Well, wait, I guess it would just be my left, their right. That's Matt Matera over there. Wherever you're looking, that's Matt Matera. Everywhere you look. And today we have an awesome show lined up for you guys. I'm excited about this because this idea just popped in my head the other day, and I was like, man, this would be kind of a cool show. We are going through the 10 Bucs that each of us would protect in the event of an NFL expansion draft that were to happen. This is, of course, stemming off of last night's NHL expansion draft with the Seattle Kraken. And so we are kind of getting into that same mode now, looking at it through an NFL lens. So pretty excited about today's show. Matt, we'll jump over to you first before we plug our friends and our partners over at Celsius, as we always do. But thoughts on the format today and how hard it was to formulate these lists?
I thought it was fun coming up with it. You know, I like all these different hypothetical things that you can get into before training camp really starts getting hot and heavy, especially here in Tampa. It's really damn hot. I thought there's a lot of guys that it was kind of a no-brainer, but I think as the list you get later, 7 through 10, there's a lot of, I want to keep this guy, but I just can't justify it. So it was fun to get creative with it, no doubt. Yeah,
for sure. It's a good time. Josh, did you have any challenges as you put together this list?
You know, with having first and second year players protected, it made it a little bit easier for me to formulate my list. But I'll tell you, there's one or two names on here that people are going to be like, what? You let this person off? Are you serious? So get ready to call.
I saw your list, buddy.
You my list?
I saw him because I had to load I had to get all the graphics situated for today. But
might be one or two that people might think of. How did you not leave this guy on here?
Hey, look, it's going to be a fun show. We're going to get after each other a little bit, as all the best Pewter Report podcast shows always have a little bit of that. But we got to talk about our friends before we do anything. We got to talk about our friends over at Celsius. Celsius, man, they power active lives every day with essential functional energy. They just do great stuff. These energy drinks, man, the fact that they taste as good as they do, are as good for you as they are, and don't have the drop off that you get from other energy drinks. It's awesome. I think it's game changer type of drink. Check it out. No sugar, but unbelievable taste. Lots of great stuff for you in there, and it gives you that boost that you need to start your day. So we are pumped and excited that Celsius is our title sponsor, as we always are. What I need people to do is keep telling me your favorite flavors, letting us know what your favorite flavors are, because we need to see kind of where the popular consensus is. And I think some polls we had recently really helped, but keep letting us know what you've been drinking, what you've been trying lately out of the Celsius brands. We are all about the tropical vibe right now.
Oh, yeah.
We're feeling the tropical vibe. It is one of the best flavors out there for sure. So go to Celsius.com, use that store locator to find the stores near you. And yeah, I think you're going to see that you're going to really enjoy Celsius and get a little boost from it that you need, especially for your workouts as well. So it's great stuff. And you can also check out the banner ads on pewterreport.com to get to the Celsius as well. Okay, guys, we got these teams that we've worked on diligently, but before we get to them, these list of 10 protected Bucs that each of us have, before we get to those, need to point out something, a couple of news elements that came out today. Number one is the Bucs have placed wide receiver John Franklin on the PUP list and cornerback Chris Wilcox, the 7th round pick. I don't have a lot to say about this, but with three of us on the show, I know we'll keep things moving. But Franklin definitely was going to be a long shot anyway. It's pretty concerning that his knee injury from last year is still kind of caught. He didn't do anything in rookie minicamp, didn't do anything in regular minicamp, mandatory minicamp. And so, yeah, his situation remains kind of a pretty blurry one in terms of his future with the Bucs right now. And then obviously Wilcox, that's a lot of competition for CB5. I think he was already a little behind the 8 ball. He's got to get back out there. The other thing, Matt, we've got some changes to the protocols as well. You banged out a great story for Pewter Report just a second ago, but we've got why don't you update everybody kind of on what you've been researching there on that? And as you've seen that the NFL's come out with a new list of protocols and some things for some stipulations and rules for the NFL season.
Yeah, so Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network, he reported it before that the NFL pretty much is mandating this rule. They informed all 32 teams. As you know, last year, playing through COVID, there was a lot of times during the season where COVID had spread through the locker room and they had to cancel games, reschedule games. I know the Steelers got hit pretty bad with it, whether it was like the team they were playing, they had to rearrange everything. And because of that, last season was the first time, I think, in NFL history that an NFL game was played on every single day of the week because that was the only way they could go about it. So this year, the NFL informed teams that if there is a COVID spread in the locker room that came from a player that is not vaccinated, again, not vaccinated, and there's a COVID spread in the locker room, if they're unable to reschedule the game in this 18-week season, the team that had the player that spread the whole COVID, that team will have to forfeit the game. It will go as a loss on their win-loss record. Obviously, that affects big things for the postseason, especially for those teams in the wild card race down the road. The team that had to forfeit the game, they're also subject to a fine by the NFL. And then also both teams, they will not get paid for not playing that week. So
yeah, that is crazy to me. Can we just focus on the last part? How does the team so a team has an outbreak, right? Then another team plays them. How does the team that has the outbreak, like the team that was scheduled to play against the team that has the outbreak, how do they get hit for it? Those guys don't get a game.
Right. It doesn't make any sense why they should get penalized for it. It's like if you and your sibling, if one of your siblings got in trouble and then like because of that, you got in trouble as well. And it's like, well, they did it. I didn't do it. Why am I getting in trouble for this?
Yeah.
It seems like, I don't know, sometimes the NFL can kind of just mandate what they want to do and there's not much anyone can really say or do to fight against it. So
feels like they're overthinking things a bit. Josh, glad to have you back, man. You okay?
I don't know what happened there, but yeah, I mean, players already sounding off. Matt Judon had some colorful words about it, and
DeAndre Hopkins
came out and said he's questioning his NFL career. So huge moves, and obviously we know how Cole Beasley feels about it. So.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
No reason to comment further there, but yeah, no, I completely agree with you guys. There's going to be ripple effect of all this stuff for sure. And we'll see we'll see, especially within the Bucs, what the response is. I don't think we've seen any Buccaneers respond yet. So we'll have to,
they're a little
monitor.
busy. They're a little busy.
They're a little busy. Yeah. Tonight's, it's ring day. We should mention that too. Bucs are getting those Super Bowl rings. I think somebody mentioned, was it you, Matt, that mentioned that in some places the media get rings too, when they went, I don't remember who it was that mentioned it, but I mean, if they'd like to throw some our way, it's fine with me.
I wouldn't say no.
Wouldn't say no to that.
I'll just take a picture and the gem count and stuff like that right now, just to get that out there first.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's see what this thing looks like. But that should be fun tonight. It's going to be a private event, but I think we'll get some pictures leaking out of there, and I know the Bucs will be all over it from their social media accounts as well. So there'll be good images, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see those rings that the players are getting. I'm sure they're pretty sweet. So. All right, let's get into these teams. We've decided, again, if you're just jumping in and you were joining the podcast a couple minutes late, that's okay. We've decided to go forward with the idea of if there was an NFL expansion draft and each team could protect 10 players, who would we protect from the Bucs? Each of us have made our own list. Scott has also made a list. Paul Atwell, Jack Barrett, our contributors, they've made a list as well. So we've gotten kind of a wide variety of different perspectives here. There's one rule that we put in place. The NHL has it if you've played 2 years or if you made your pro debut like 2 years in advance or less, then you don't have to be protected. So I don't know what Lightning player that applied to. I know for the Penguins, they didn't have to protect John Marino. He played 2 years. With the NFL, we tweaked it a little bit. We made it like 1 year of experience in rookies. So the 2020 class and the 2020 class and the 2021 class did not need to be protected, which means Tristan Wirfs, Antoine Winfield, Tyler Johnson, Joe Tryon, Kyle Trask, Robert Hainsey, Jalen Darden. None of those guys needed to be protected in this list. Those guys are already safe. So knowing that going in, that made it a little bit easier, didn't it? Knowing that going in, here's Scott's. Let's just rip on Scott first. Let's see if Scott and I have anything different. I don't know if we do. Scott and I might be pretty similar. He protects Brady, obviously, Vita Vea. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are musts, I feel like. Then you move into that gray area. Okay, who are you going to protect of the offensive linemen, right? I mean, a lot of good players, obviously. Stunned. Scott protected Donovan Smith over Ryan Jensen. What are your thoughts on that, Matt Matera?
Well, other than the order that Scott has everyone, I pretty much have the same list in terms of the players on the list. So I'm totally in agreement with Scott about having Donovan Smith on the list. I mean, offensive tackle is one of the most important positions in the NFL, especially left tackle. You got to have someone you can rely on to be protecting Tom Brady's blind side. So I think it's important. You got to think, and I think that's the big thing with this creating this list is the criteria of, I know for me, I tried to balance it with long-term future for the Buccaneers, also mixed with immediate impact for this season. So if another team came in and took Donovan Smith, you got Josh Wells as your starting left tackle, unless they decide to move over Tristan Wirfs from the right to the left side. I think that's a huge impact for the Bucs if they didn't have a guy like Donovan Smith right there. You got to have your main left tackle on this team. So I thought it was a smart move to keep Donovan Smith. I know he's had his ups and downs, but right now he's trending upward without question. So I think it was important to get him on the list, and I do agree that he kind of falls into that 8 to 10 range of he makes a list, but he's not priority number one.
JC, any hot takes here?
No, I mean, Donovan Smith is a guy who I think, for all the reasons Matt just said, you kind of have to have him. This was, going into this season, right? And if you protect Ryan Jensen and someone drafts Donovan Smith, then you're in some trouble there protecting Tom Brady's blind side, whoever the quarterback would be in their blind side if you didn't protect Tom Brady. And, Jensen, I feel like while he's a great player, it might be easier to get by with a different center. Otherwise, I mean, you're looking at the list and you've got a good mix of youth, good mix of veterans, and some real building blocks for this foundation of the franchise.
I agree. Not too much to complain about here with Scott's list because he and I don't differ that much is where I'll start. And it sounds like Matt doesn't either. Let's go Paul and Jack first because Paul and Jack aren't on the show either. Okay. So we're seeing most of the same players. Now, this is interesting. Paul has decided to protect Mike Edwards here. So, and Jamel Dean. So he is focusing on the secondary here. And who is he taking out? He's got Antonio Brown in the mix there. So he's got 3 different players than Scott had.
He's got no Carlton?
No Carlton Davis.
Interesting.
Protecting Jamel Dean.
Interesting.
Wow, Paul is in the comments.
Mike Edwards over
yeah.
the number 1 corner on the team.
I agree. Maybe he sees a high ceiling with Jamel Dean here. And I admit that there is probably a sky high ceiling with Jamel Dean. I just don't know whether he'll figure it out or not. But Paul is in the comments, so he will have a chance to defend himself.
Yeah, he said,
but right now, this looks questionable.
He said, caveat, my list was made to preserve the best possible team for 2021. Age and contract length not accounted for.
That makes it worse. That makes it more egregious. Then Carlton should be on here, right? I think. Let's see. Okay, Devin White, Levante David, Vita Vea is on here. Who else are we missing? Antonio Brown's on here, but we see a lot less offensive linemen. Obviously, Wirfs is already protected, but there's no Ryan Jensen and there's no Donovan Smith in this situation. Oh. Let's see who else are we. I feel like let's pull up Scott's list again. He had Shaq Barrett, right?
Shaq Barrett. That's it.
No, he's got no. Sorry, that was Scott's list.
That's Scott's list. Now this is it. Yeah, he didn't know Shaq Barrett in there. Oh, he's not defending himself right now. He is taking it on the chin right now. There's no defense for this. You can't. Paul, where are you? We need you to comment.
Yeah, I need a reason why Antonio Brown was protected. I know the contract is somewhat low, but if you're protecting Godwin and Evans as well, I mean,
right. And again, and this is where it comes into long term versus short term. You might only have Brown for 1 year. This could be his last season with the Bucs, and then he cashes in and gets a big contract somewhere else. Do you really want to protect a guy that there's no guarantee he'll be here after 1 season when you already have 2 studs at the same position?
And if you're gonna protect a third pass catcher, I would think it would be at one of the tight ends, right? A Gronk or an OJ Howard. And for the people who are just coming in here, the last 2 years drafted players, so Winfield, Wirfs, and all this entire draft class here does not need to be protected. I see some people in the comments going crazy.
I think Paul says he straight up screwed up by missing Davis. So.
I think it made it tougher to come up with this list because Wirfs and Winfield were both protected. Because I think if they're not protected, they're automatically on that list. Like no question, Tristan Wirfs is without a doubt on that list. So I think with them being protected, it made it
It did
possible
make it
to
easier.
get more creative with it for sure.
Right. And maybe I should have put that in there, but I mean, that's how the NHL does it. So I don't think it's fair. And there's way more players on an NFL team. So it's obviously going to be harder already. I mean, still hard, but this is interesting. You know, he says he should have put Carlton in there. So maybe that, even given that caveat, but it's interesting, went right to Mike Edwards, right? I mean, if Mike Edwards can be like a ball hawk type of player, then I think it's a different story, right? Like that's, you know, I think like if he can create turnovers at the rate we saw last year when he was on the field, that's obviously, I understand it, that part of it for sure. Some people have asked about where's Wirfs, just to keep reiterating for people, you don't have to do first and second, rookies and first year players.
Classes,
yeah, last two draft classes don't need to be protected like in the NHL. Like those guys are okay. So you didn't have to protect them. That made it easier. He's out here defending the Antonio Brown move though, and I get it, like getting weapons for sure. But I think there's a point Matt has too about the 1 year being it there for him. I think that's what makes the Antonio Brown thing interesting, right? Because it's 1 year of Antonio Brown plus there's this questionable everything with it. Who knows what's going to happen next with Antonio Brown? As much as I think he's a top 10 Buck in terms of talent? Yes, and I wrote as much in my last Bucks briefing. Do I think he is a player I would protect? No, but I love the variety. Honestly, the variety is making me happy. Let's see what Jack has. All right, Jack. Okay, Donovan Smith, that Carlton Davis makes a return. Shaq Barrett makes a return to the list. Oh, he's got Ron Gronkowski on there. Not Ron.
Wow.
Actually, this was Scott that made. Let's not throw Jack under the bus. Scott made these graphics. He put Ron
Gronkowski.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
I'll literally read anything that's on the teleprompter.
That was good.
Ron Gronkowski, though, yeah. I mean, this version of Rob, you know, he's taken over the league. No, I get why Barrett would protect Ron Gronkowski. Rob, you know, he's getting a little bit old. I don't know about him, but no, seriously, he doesn't protect Ali Marpet. That's probably the biggest surprise, right? Marpet not on here, but Gronkowski is on here, and perhaps it's just a viewing guard as replaceable or viewing the cap space you'd get from losing a Marpet, long-term cap space, you know, and short-term, you know, both. From losing a Marpet may allow you to make moves and be more flexible. Maybe you add a guard that's cheaper and add another player at a position that you really would need, similar to how the NHL is kind of dealing with these moves and trying to leave big contracts available at times. I mean, I'm not saying I would do it, but I mean, does that make sense, Matt?
Say the question again. I'm sorry.
Like just with Ali Marpet's situation, I think him not being on this list, I just wonder if Ali Marpet not being on the list has something to do with the cap, right?
I guess it could be that could be that kind of a situation if you really look
positional value
that much. I just went more towards the side of, you know, importance to the team and things like that over, how are we going to make the salary cap work? Because again, in this hypothetical situation, you don't know which player they're taking off of the Bucs roster because they could end up taking a big chunk of salary where it doesn't hurt having Ali like that. I just think Ali is one of those guys. He's a cornerstone of the team. He's been through the bad times and now with the good times. He's a top tier offensive guard in this league. And I'm a firm believer of winning in the trenches and everything like that. I know you guys are too. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was very important to beef up the offensive line as much as you possibly can. And why not go with a guy that has been so consistent and so good for such a long time? You don't even need to think twice about him when he's out there because he's just been that good for the team.
This is an interesting comment here from Michael Henderson. And he says, if I was an expansion team, I would not be taking a player over 30. You are building the best proven veteran players who are going to want to stick for a few years. I kind of see it both ways, though. Like, yes, you want some younger players, but like there are some players who are so good, if they became available, you'd be crazy. You have to pick them up. Like, they immediately could make you a contender if you picked up a couple other good players. I mean, and imagine the start, you know, putting fans in the seat, saying that a legend played for you. You know, I'm not saying Brady, but like, you know, if somebody didn't protect Brady, like that could be, you know what I mean? Like there's that option that's in front of you. Pick up somebody like that. Your stadium's full. People think Brady can do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and I think there's an interesting point too about having a veteran presence on a team. Like, for example, Joe Tryon, I think, is going to benefit so greatly from not just Shaq, but I really think JPP, just that fiery energy that JPP brings to the team. he's a guy, like, obviously he didn't really make anyone's list, but he's a player where, okay, yeah, he's over his 30s and he's getting up there in his career, but he's still a player that brings so much value, just not on the field, but in the classroom, just having conversations with him and just feeding off of that energy. I think there's something to be said about, yeah, a player might be older, but he can help you out so quickly in more ways than one. I think is definitely a big thing to look into.
It is. JPP would be an interesting study. He's might be a player that I side more with Mike on, because he has kind of outproduced most of his years just in his stint in Tampa, the injury history, the age. He's one I could maybe stay away from. But at the same time, I see your point that you'd have a leader right away. You'd be able to develop your young guys. You'd be able to be competitive right away. And it's 1 year of his contract. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to look at it. But I do see Michael's point, and I think it's something we should consider on this, even though there's a lot of perspectives to take on this team building thing. Okay, so we've moved through those guys, the people who aren't on the show. Now, who wants to get their teeth kicked in from the people who are on the show? Josh is taking notes to defend it. Let's do it. Here we go, Josh. All right, buddy. You'll see there's one player not on here that I think is a pretty big deal. What are we doing here, buddy? Where's Thomas?
Oh, my God.
What are we doing
And you're the New England guy.
My gosh, man.
So first of all, let me just,
what are you, Max Kellerman?
You want to win the Super Bowl, buddy?
I would love to win the Super Bowl, but I also have a Tom Brady who is a 44-year-old quarterback in a couple days here going on a new franchise. Well, yeah, it makes sense to grab a guy like Tom Brady, right? It makes sense to, fill the stands and bring people in. And this is the list that I protected them in as well, from top to bottom. It makes a lot of sense. But if I'm Tom Brady, you're also dealing with the risk of, does Tom want to go to an expansion team? Where is this expansion team playing? How far is it going to be from New York and his son? There's a lot of factors that weigh into this. So I used my little Tom Brady retirement loophole here to say that Tom Brady's being drafted from an expansion team that's going to be up in, Albuquerque, New Mexico as the Albuquerque Rattlers or Scorpions. He's not going to want to go there. And he'll just say, you know what, I've accomplished everything. I'll just rather retire than go uproot my family and move on over to Albuquerque. All
right, but then
but you could just have him on the Bucs.
Yeah, like that you could just win the Super Bowl.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't need to protect him. He'll probably.
You think he's just
draft him? I think he's undraftable.
But either way, you wouldn't have him on the Bucs. You could just protect him, and he'll be like, "Okay, I'm going to keep playing for the Bucs."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think a team's going to draft them to waste one of their spots when there's a plethora of. You got Dean.
There's no way.
Who the Bucs starting at quarterback? Kyle Trask, Blaine Gabbert.
Again, this is my thought process here. A young expansion team that knows Tom isn't going to want to go, who's probably going to get a message from Don Yee saying, don't draft my client. He's going to retire if you draft him. And with still the ability to draft a guy like Jensen,
this is galaxy brain here.
Dean, Whitehead, Edwards, or Kappa would probably look to grab one of those guys like a Dean, like a Edwards, and draft one of those guys instead of taking a risk on spending a valuable draft pick to start your franchise on a 44-year-old quarterback who may not even report to camp if you do draft him.
He's getting drafted. Like, he just won the Super Bowl.
I don't think so. That's where I think.
Now the retirement angle is humorous. I did not think about that. That's funny. I didn't consider it part of the exercise, but I appreciate the creativity there. But if you don't think expansion franchise, if Tom Brady's available, they have a full stadium year one, and they're probably competitive. And he doesn't hurt him. It's not like they don't have draft picks too. They can still draft a quarterback number one overall. Like, I just think, and the comments are agreeing with me. I don't think they're not. There's no way.
I'm looking at it right now. Tom Brady.
Boo this man, commenters.
Tom Brady says no.
That part, I agree. That part, I agree. If Tom Brady literally was like, I'm gonna rather retire.
And that was my whole thought process on this, right? Was Tom Brady wasn't gonna go anywhere. Obviously, he'd be protected on my list, but I just just to switch it up a little bit because I knew everyone would have had Tom Brady on here. I figured
Alien as your back.
I don't hate that. Spice it up.
Alien Mastodon as your back. Charlie wants you gone.
Jeez, Charlie.
He said not protecting Tom. Tom is a Tampa Bay great. He's a Buccaneer great, man. I mean,
he's a future Ring of Honor member.
Yeah, it's a hot one. It's a hot one, but I guess if you're considering he'd retire, if anybody offered, that's a funny angle.
That's what I was. I mean, you guys don't think the same thing? You think Tom would get up and go move to Albuquerque, New Mexico?
There's no chance Tom Brady wouldn't be protected. So I've never thought that.
In the scenario that he is in,
especially knowing that he's going to be there for 2 seasons. Knowing that he'll be there for 2 years, I think is a big change as well, too, because you got him for multiple years, and you could probably convince him to play that 3rd year too.
Yeah.
But you think Tom Brady's going to Albuquerque?
I think. Who said the franchise was in Albuquerque?
Yeah, right.
I mean, where's the franchise going to be? You think?
I don't know. I think he's playing. Tom Brady. He goes out on his own terms. He's not letting somebody else do it for him. He's going out and he's going to say, I'm playing. I'm going out balling. That's what he would do.
And another and too, like, because I looked at the roster too, and I didn't put Jensen on there because again, another $10 million for a 30-year-old.
You went Donovan Smith instead of Jensen, and you went Sean Murphy Bunting instead of Brady.
Yes, exactly. Right? I went. Right. Yeah, that's exactly.
So you're a bit. No, all right. Now Sean Murphy Bunting's making his way onto this list, and let's just talk about this for a second, JC, because you might have been somewhere that you got a few pictures, you were hanging out with him. I mean, like, are we compromised here, bud? Like,
it's for the kids.
Are we keeping our journalistic unbiased perspective here?
No, I think he's probably, has been out of him and Dean been more consistent and can probably be the better of the two. I mean, I think Dean has slightly higher ceiling, but we haven't seen the consistency. We had, SMB started almost every single game for this Bucs team last year, came up huge in the playoffs. He's got all pro on his mind, and maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But
so Murphy Bunting also over Ryan Jensen, also over Antonio Brown.
Antonio, I've got 2 wide receivers. Tight end, if they take Gronk, fine. I've got OJ. If they have OJ, fine, I take Gronk. I'm fine with that switch. Ryan Jensen, again, $10 million for a 30-year-old center. I think they can get better value on this roster.
That's fair.
I agree.
Elsewhere, even if it is with a guy like Sue or JPP, who also I think, like I said, I think the value players on this roster on my list are Dean, Whitehead, Edwards, and Kappa. If you can get one of those guys, if you can get Kappa, I think that's the way you go, because you're getting him on a rookie deal, and then next year you'll have the money as an expansion team to pay him, and you'll have one of the better right guards in the league. So I think that's the way they would go. Even if Brady was protected, I think, wasn't protected, I think Kappa would be a really good choice on this.
Dragon Lope says Josh has lost his shit since locker room imploded.
Give me back the room.
Spotify Green Room now, folks. Follow Pewter Report over there. Put a fence around this man. Dragon Lope is losing it.
Hey, Tom is not going to Albuquerque. That's all I got to say.
Chris is imagine saying you would protect SMB in week 7 of last year. I mean, imagine saying it now, to be honest, but also definitely imagine saying it.
You're protecting Dean over SMB?
I'm protecting Dean or SMB, did you say?
Yeah.
I'm not protecting either of them. Let's get my list up here. So you guys can. Go ahead, Matt. You lead this thing and let JC take some shots of me. Here's my list, fellas. Have at it.
Terrible. Right off the bat.
I think it's fine. Again, you, me, and Scott all have similar players, just different orders. It's just
all smart.
I don't want to call it cookie cutter, but it's it's the most.
I went Jensen over Donovan Smith, and that to me was and it's the cap thing. You get more space with Smith, and obviously Jensen's going to be a free agent after this year, so you've got a little bit. And I just think Jensen's a better player. And I agree that left tackles are harder to find, but if Brady's my quarterback for the next couple of years, I think that I can get by with somebody else at left tackle. And I like Donovan Smith. I've been on his side. My rationale was I think I can replace that guy. Brady's always had a stud center. I want to keep that stud center in place. I think he's a culture guy. I think he sets the protections well, great communicator, brings the young guys along well, going to be a future coach maybe in the league. There's a lot that he provides that I like with Jensen, so I went with him over Donovan Smith. That was really the only true sticking point, I think, for me. I mean, you can argue about age with a guy like Levante David. I don't saying this wasn't the order, by the way, for me. It just happened to be the order that Scott put him in.
It just got placed that way. Yeah, the only thing for Jensen and the interior line, I would say, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about when you and I, John, were on the podcast the other day previewing the offensive and defensive line. I just think the Bucs are better prepared to replace someone on the interior offensive line. Whether, if Jensen hypothetically leaves, you could put Hainsey in at center, or you could potentially move Marpet to center and put Stinney in there at guard, or I don't know if Kappa's taken snaps before or anything like that. But there's more things that you could do to maneuver with the offensive line than if you just lose Tristan Wirfs. Well, you wouldn't lose Wirfs in this situation, but if you lose Donovan Smith, I just like the possibilities that you can go with in the middle of the offensive line.
Yeah. G Vegas and Oddson, I just want to touch real quick because I know some people will be confused in here, but we've said it a couple of times. We'll keep saying it for people jumping in. This year's class and last year's draft class did not need to be protected. So Wirfs, Winfield, Tryon, for example, like the big names, guys that we would probably see protected maybe. Those guys didn't need protected, just like in the NHL. Actually, the NHL, it's even more. It would be Devin White's class as well for the NHL. But I didn't want to make it too. To me, that would have made it too easy. So I kept that class in there and just said first year player, 1 year players and rookies are protected.
I think one of the toughest exercises of this was looking at the team and seeing, okay, where can I take away pieces but still be successful? And while doing that also is who are the guys on here that are either because of their contract size, because of their veteran status, or how long they played in the league, might not be attractive to players, to the expansion draft team.
And that would be Levante, right? Do you look at Levante that way?
That's exactly where I was getting at. I think that's why we all looked at Levante David and said, okay, he's a guy that if you take Levante David away, you have Devin White, sure, you have Shaq Barrett, but if you're not protecting JPP, now you're. So that's the thing with me. I thought if I could leave. If I had Barrett, White, and David, I could leave JPP. If JPP got taken, well, I've got Joe Tryon, who, you don't know what he's going to look like, but at least I've got, a talented player there at that position. And, that's kind of how I went through. And that's why I have the same thing as Matt with the Jensen issue. I love Jensen as a player, but at $10 million or 30, for a 30-year-old center, I'm okay with putting him at risk. If I was going to protect an extra lineman that wasn't Donovan Smith, it would have been Alex Kappa. Because I just think that obviously younger, cheaper, and you might be able to get him, re-sign him next year.
Yeah.
And with Hainsey, if he's going to be the true backup at center, or Sedarius Hutchinson, might I wait next year.
Right.
Unprotected.
It's the whole Levante conversation would be most interesting to me. The Brady thing is like just the name, the notoriety, the skill level. Like he's clearly getting taken, but Levante, it's a 2-year deal. It's a decent amount of money for a linebacker. If you're an expansion team, you're trying to stay under the cap. You can take 2 players from every team. Like it's eventually you have to think about those kind of things at that position. What's that?
You can take 2 players or just I thought it was just 1.
Probably 2 players. Well, I mean, think about how many.
For the NFL, it's double
for the NFL.
size,
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
So it would probably be 2, and you're not going to take the best 2 players from every team. Like a guy like Kappa is going to get or even he's going to be a free agent. You'd have some guys getting taken, like a Jamel Dean would probably get taken. Somebody like that would probably get swiped. Mike Edwards, those guys could get swiped up. So yeah, you probably look at losing those guys to keep Levante. Obviously, in the Bucs Super Bowl window, though, I would just do that. If you were a different team, a different situation, I might take the young guys and leave a really, really good player who's clearly better, like Levante, available for another team.
And that was my rationale for it, is that Levante and Devin are arguably the best linebacker duo in the NFL. They probably are, but people have arguments, whatever. So you got to say arguably before anything, because people will lose their minds. But like, why would you take something away when you're in win now? You got 1 Super Bowl. If Brady plays for 2 more seasons like it's expected, you're talking about they could potentially win 3 Super Bowls in a row. And don't get me wrong, I really like Kevin Minter, especially as a backup. He's proved that he can come into a situation as a backup and play in a game or 2. But I wouldn't want Devin White and Kevin Minter as your 2 middle linebackers for all 17 games this season. That's a little bit too risky. I think with this team in win now mode, just knowing the production you get from both of those guys, and it's top tier level production, You can't give that up right now. You just can't.
Right. I agree.
I went SMB over Dean because SMB started more games than Dean this year. Dean might have the higher upside, but at least I know what I'm going to get with SMB. I'm going to get frustrated a couple of times, but that's why I went that route.
Right. G Vegas says
go both cornerbacks.
Oh, sorry, JC. G Vegas says hot topic or hot take, I guess you mean. So I would protect Donovan Smith. He is a quality starting left tackle, barely misses a game. To have Smith, Marpet, and Wirfs would be great. I agree. I mean, I understand the perspective for Smith for sure. I understand the argument for Jensen. I don't necessarily think one or the other. Wow, Dragonlope out here dishing out hot takes.
Whoa.
Donovan Smith over Chris Godwin.
Whoa.
Wow. Is it just a contract? Like you think you're going to have to pay Godwin at the end of it and you'd rather not? You'd rather not skill, just injury and money concerns with Godwin. Okay. I could see it, although I think it'd be crazy to not protect Godwin. You got to at least be able to get something for him.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
he's the youngest out of all the receivers, or like, out of the top 3 receivers that the Bucs have. Again, if you're thinking long term, I think you'd rather lean towards Godwin than in the other receivers if you're talking strictly from an age standpoint. I do agree that the money really puts a whole cog into the machine because
can you imagine this if this was a real draft and the Bucs protected Donovan Smith over Chris Godwin? Outrage.
I wouldn't want to be in charge of any of the social media teams over there. Fans would not be doing that.
I just traded Cameron Brate in a 4th round draft pick to protect everybody else on my roster, so I automatically win.
What did you do?
I traded a 4th round draft pick in Cam Brate to the expansion team to protect everybody else on my roster. So we're good.
You traded Cam Brate for a 4th rounder.
No, and a 4th rounder to protect. To protect it, so they would take Cam Brate. So
you did a backdoor deal type of thing. Yeah. I got you. All right, let's get Matt's list up here and let's finish this thing off. Look at this thing. Before we talk about Matt's list, let me tell you all about something even, I know it's hard to imagine, but something even better than Matt's list. Our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest place to play fantasy football for big cash prizes. I'm talking big cash prizes. On Underdog Fantasy, you just draft. There's no need to worry about waivers, lineups, or injuries. Underdog handles it all for you. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app, draft a season-long best ball team, and that's it. No in-season management. It's just best ball. They pull your top scores from your roster every single week in season. It's awesome. You don't have to worry about the management or the waiver wire or any of that stuff. They're going to give you $25 when you sign up. So you can take a free shot at a $1 million grand prize in their fantasy football tournament. In fact, there's one, I think it's $3.5 million out there, and the grand prizes, first place is over $1 million, I think, on one of. So go to their site, UnderdogFantasy.com. You can put in this $25 that they give you and enter this chance to win $1 million. It seems like a great opportunity to me. So the free $25 in promo and bonus cash on Underdog if you use the promo code Pewter, Pewter, to make your first deposit. It's just easy to use. And that's the other thing I love. The aesthetic is great. The mobile app is great. It's user-friendly. It's very self-explanatory. Just going to be honest, like ESPN, Yahoo, I don't feel like they're always that clean. And I think Underdog Fantasy, it's just so clean. It's easy to use. It looks great. And so check it out. Get that free $25 in bonus cash. Use that promo code Pewter, Pewter. Go to the App Store. Go to the Google Play Store. Get UnderdogFantasy.com. And, I mean, opportunities to have a lot of fun this season with prop bets and all kinds of stuff over at Underdog. It's really, really awesome stuff. So I'm super excited about our partnership with them and excited to see Bucs fans start experiencing the wonders of Underdog Fantasy. All right, Matt. No hot takes here, right? Like, we have the
Not
same
really.
list,
It's pretty
except
much
for Donovan and Jensen.
It's pretty much to the point. I think it's all of the best Bucs players. Again, I tried to balance long-term future, which is why you see Devin White up at the top. I mean, he's a cornerstone of this franchise. The Bucs, their whole history is based around great middle linebackers, Derek Brooks, Levante David. Devin White's the next in line. He led the team in tackles this year. He'll lead the team in tackles. I'm willing to bet for, the next at least 5 or 6 seasons at a minimum if the Bucs re-sign him to a long contract, which I think we all believe that they will, or at least they definitely should. That same goes for Vita Vea, a younger guy. He's a beast up front when he's playing. He's, unbelievable. Ryan Suckup did not make the list. It was close, but
got a kicker. We're gonna get rid of him now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, if I'm an expansion team, I'm probably not taking a kicker, but I probably also would take one younger than Suckup. I mean, I know Suckup's coming off a good year, but I don't think they'd lose Suckup. But I wouldn't protect him. I would never protect the kicker.
Right. I mean, that would just be ridiculous.
Now, I really thought Scott was going to protect the kicker with this list. I teased him last night. I was like, I know Ryan Suckup's going to be on your list, and I really thought that he would be. But the only difference, so people basically in the chat vote this way. Would you rather have the 9 that Scott and Matt and I agreed on, or would you rather have Ryan Jensen or Donovan Smith like Matt and Scott had? I had Ryan Jensen on there. So
I had the same list as Matt, except take out Tom Brady and put an SFP.
Yeah. It's funny. I thought putting Donovan Smith on the list, that was one of the picks where I thought people would kind of get on my case for. But it was nice to see like half the other people that made these lists all have Donovan Smith on it.
No, he was 11 for me. Donovan Smith was 11 for me. So I get that one completely.
Ryan Jensen was 11 for me.
Yeah. I mean, those are the guys that I think probably are on the fringe. Yeah. So the only difference with you, Josh, was Brady. You think he's going to retire. That's the only.
Tom Brady. He's not going. An expansion team is not going to draft him in 2 years when they can get a young. I mean, think about some of the young quarterbacks around the league that might be exposed. You know, you're really going to draft Brady for a year just to put some tickets in when you could draft a young guy like Kappa and Dean and have an outside cornerback and a guard. Mm-hmm. You know, starting a really good starting guard. I just feel like the guys that are still left over are more attractive than Tom Brady.
Yeah, there's certainly would be a lot. I would think that's another reason why I think Suckup would be safe is the Bucs have the best roster in the league. And so there would be players taken from the other spot. So I don't think you'd have to worry about Suckup in that situation. But even so, you got to be able to replace the kicker. It just is what it is. Hey, speaking
Jose, what's his last name, John?
Borealis or
Borealis. Borealis knows how to say his last name. That's
I have no clue. It's got a lot of letters. That's all I know. A lot of letters. Hey, if you're geared up for this Bucs season and you're excited about this Bucs season, you got to know about our friends over at Loose Cannons Travel. They are doing some awesome stuff this season, including putting together travel packages for Bucs fans to go to away games in New Orleans, in Los Angeles for the Rams, for the matchup against the Rams, and in Atlanta as well to go against the Falcons. These packages are absolutely outstanding. I mean, these guys have thought of everything, and it's like a whole weekend kind of mapped out for. Here's an example of what one looks like. You could see the prices there. If you can get, this is for the one in LA. If you can get 4 people to go, it's like a little over $1,000 each to go. And look at what it includes: a hotel stay, Friday night party, Saturday night pepper. These are VIP parties too that they're getting you into. Sunday cater, tailgate, tickets to the game. You got to check this out. Go over to loosecannonstravel.com. You can see all the details, get a feel for how all these trips are going to play out. But you can see there's the New Orleans one. You can see the price per person. You can get 4 people out to this event. It's game changer stuff. They've thought of everything. They have taken care of everything. And it's going to be a nice, relaxing, fun trip. And you're going to get the tickets to the game just in and of itself. I mean, my goodness, what a deal. Loose Cannons, man.
Yeah, plus Friday night in LA, the one you just showed, it's going to be a booze cruise. And Saturday, they're going to have Jason Light and Jake Arians out there. Yeah. Maybe even some players stopping by.
Right.
So,
and New Orleans on Halloween. Like, that's insane.
Right.
And as it is already.
G Vegas wants to know, is Pewter Report joining the LA party? Potential is there. Potential is certainly there for Pewter Report to join the LA party. It all depends on what the league lets us do in terms of away games and press box space and all that kind of stuff. So we'll find out here very soon, hopefully, or they'll maybe tell us right before week 1 starts. I don't know. They've done that before too. So we'll see. We'll find out. But this was fun, guys. I thought this exercise was pretty good. I think that we all had the opportunity to think a little bit like a GM in these situations. But the Bucs necessarily weren't, with the rules we put in place, at least it wasn't maybe the toughest, but still you have to kind of be able to throw up your hands and realize you're probably going to lose a couple good players.
Sure.
Yeah, that's how it goes. And, you know, a lot of times GMs got to make those difficult decisions. There's going to be roster cuts coming up with training camp right around the corner. And it's tough for them to do it, but that's why they get paid the big bucks. For us, we just get to get ridiculed by by the fan base online
and each other
and each other. Yeah,
occasionally each other.
It was almost like a roast, a little.
It was a mini roast. Yeah, it wasn't not too many inflammatory things, but a mini roast for sure. Hey, next week on the podcast, it's training camp coverage. That's what it is. We're gonna have training camp covered wall to wall, and the show ideas that we have for this upcoming season. over at pewterreport.com. I'm telling you, it is such an exciting time right now. We've got so many show ideas that we're pumped about for the season. Expansion of our efforts on YouTube is going to be coming here. There's going to be a lot for people to get excited about and enjoy, especially on game days. And so we are excited for all you to be on this journey with us for sure. And training camp is going to be kind of the first phase of that. Next week, you're going to see a lot of that stuff happen. And the Pewter Report podcast is going to be covering. We're going to be out there covering each day of practice, and these guys are going to have it covered extremely well on the podcast as well. JC, I saw you were raising your hand like you were in the classroom.
We have our first Buccaneer player who's speaking out against the vaccine. I'll give you a guess who it is.
I don't want to guess.
Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette tweeted out vaccine. I can't do it. ...
Yeah, we're going to see player reaction for sure. We'll have to monitor and gauge all of that. So, and it's going to come. Yeah, it's going to eventually come from the Bucs as well. So we'll be monitoring all of that as we always do. Have you covered with all things Bucs next week on more editions of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.